Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. Excited to be able to share some thoughts and some insights that I've been having around leadership. I'll give everyone a minute to kind of log in. If you are able to join us live, that's fantastic. I'd appreciate you guys being able to use the comment section inside of LinkedIn. If you are commenting, I'm going to look over here. So if I'm looking over here, I promise I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm not being distracted by Teams or email. Those are your chats over here on that screen. It's also a little bit high, so it's going to look weird. But anyways, love for you guys to be able to interact. And if you are joining through a recording, I'm glad you made the time as well. As this gets started, curious, who likes this picture, right? Like I found this picture on like Unsplash. It was like a free one. It wasn't a big deal. But I'm curious, is this like in an environment that looks enticing? Or is this something that you're like, nope, absolutely not walking across that like wickety, this old little plank of a bridge? This guy right there. That look enticing? I think it looks like fun. It looks like a hike that I would like to go on, something that would be exciting. But more on why maybe that is and kind of what I'm thinking here. But we're here to talk about leading your team into dangerous spaces. My name is Dan Smitley. So I've been in the contact center space for over 20 years. Most of those inside of workforce management teams, either as a director, manager, or an individual contributor. What I have loved to focus on and what I've loved to think about is kind of employee engagement. How can we elevate the workforce management team to be more strategic? How can we bring the employees' lives up from this disengaged challenge, right? I think a lot of us in the contact center space are used to agents that are just frustrated and exhausted and just burn out. I love being able to help organizations think through how to do that differently. I think part of that comes from leadership, which is the reason why I'm having this session, why I love talking to you all about it. But workforce management, contact centers, that's my primary lens. I'm now with Call Design as their strategy and optimization czar. Yep. Czar. It's a fun little title. And really what that means is like I'm helping internally us think about where are we going, what are we doing, and what is our strategy around people, marketing, innovation, just helping us think strategically. And then I'm able to help our customers as well. I'm coaching our customers through empire building. I can't think of a better term other than that, right? I think a lot of times contact centers and WFM teams in particular are used to being order takers. You know, here's your forecast, here's your schedule, here's, the agents that are needed, et cetera. But I love talking to y'all about how can we move past that and actually have workforce management or the contact center being something that leads an agenda, that champions causes, and that it helps move the organization to a new strategic direction. So that's what I get to do here at Call Design. If you're interested, I'd love to talk. If you're not interested, I'd probably still love to talk to you. I am now living outside of Charleston, South Carolina, but born and raised in Ohio. My fun little green picture there shows and indicates I love to get out and run. I will be honest, I haven't been running much recently. I'm going to either blame it on the travel that I've been doing or the fact that it's like 3,000% humidity outside. It is stupid in Charleston, South Carolina. Most of the year it's fantastic, but July, actually, let's be honest, it's like June through September. The humidity is pretty thick, but I love it here. And like I said, contact centers and workforce management, employee engagement, that is what I love talking about. If it interests you, feel free to reach out. But we are here to talk about leadership. And one of the most obvious statements is that leadership is hard. And I think it's particularly hard because of the amount of things that we have to balance. I was just talking to one of my old coworkers. We still meet pretty regularly. She's talking about her career pathing. She's kind of in this product management role right now and where she's thinking about going. And she's like, I think I'm probably pretty close to being ready for leadership. And I'm like, I think you're ready now. Why do you think you're not? And she's like, well, there's so much you have to balance. There's so many things that you have to be doing well to be a good leader. And I was like, the fact that you're even thinking about that, talking about that, considering, you're ready now, right? But what I appreciated was that fact that she's owning there's a lot to leadership. There's a lot, right? You're managing. It's not just enough to manage your team. It's not enough just to be able to engage with your direct reports and make sure that they're good and they're heading in a positive direction. You're now having to manage up, right? What's your boss leadership style? How do they like to communicate? Where are they going? How are you supporting your boss's agenda and what they're trying to accomplish? So you're managing up, you're managing down, you're managing sideways, the peers and the network that you're trying to maintain. Then, of course, there's you're leading a team while being led. And so your leader has a vision for you. And in fact, right, depending upon your size of your organization, it's your leaders' vision. And there's so many levels of where are we going and how are we going to get there, while you're also trying to cast a vision for your team. Then there's, hands-on and also delegating, innovative and stable, tactical and strategic. Like, you see it, right? It's a lot. And there's probably some of you on here that are thinking, well, listen, like, if that's all it was, that'd be easy, right? You're probably thinking, Dan, you forgot about this and this and this. You can probably add 5 or 6 more things onto this list that says, yeah, leadership is clearly hard. There's others of you on the call that are probably like, wait, I don't want that. I don't know. Thank you. I didn't realize that leadership was so complicated, and I didn't realize it was going to be so much. And it's just the fact that I think a lot of us have moved into contact center roles, and in particular leadership roles, without being ready and trained for it, right? We for some reason, it's not unique to us in the contact centers, but I see it a lot. We take an agent that is this great converting sales agent, or this high productivity, first call resolutions, amazing. And they're just able to connect with customers and handle interactions super seamlessly. And we say, hey, you're really good at converting sales calls. You know what we're going to do? We're going to have you coach other agents. That somehow those skills are transferable, that somehow, because you're good at selling, you're going to be good at coaching. But we do it consistently. And then we say, great, you're so good at coaching, connecting with your agents and being able to bring performance out of them. We're going to make you a manager now, right? We're going to put you in a leadership role. And all of a sudden now we start seeing this list. We thought we were just coaching people. How do I know how to be hands-on and delegating it? And how do I know how to have a stable force while being innovative? It's not, again, unique to contact centers, but we're notorious for promoting people into leadership roles that they're not skilled and equipped for. And that's part of the reason why I love having these conversations. I like producing this kind of content, having coaching conversations around how do we get better? Because I think a lot of us have been kind of thrown into the fire and we're not necessarily ready to be able to start leading. So, it maybe comes as no surprise, but I want to own the fact. And as we talk about where we're going and then the challenges we might have in leadership, let's start with the basis. Like, we're doing a hard job, guys. Like, leadership is challenging, and let's give ourselves a little bit of grace. I love Brene Brown, and she's notorious for throwing out things around vulnerability and leadership. And one of her quotes that I love is like, daring leaders say the unsaid, unsurface what's been pushed down, and bring to light the stuff that's in the shadows and in the corners. Cool, inspiring, but holy cow, daunting, right? Like, I see that and I'm like, oh my God, yes, but can someone else do that? Like, is that really expected of me as a leader? Can my leader do that? And I'll just follow their unsaid things and their unsurfaced things that they're pushing forward. It's a lot. And I think the challenge then becomes is that we as new leaders, or even experienced leaders that maybe just don't realize where we're going, with so much going, we might not realize that the example that we're leading and the direction that we're taking people, or maybe leading them into dangerous spaces. And I'm going to try to hone in on dangerous, not bad, right? So I think of, I don't know why, during kind of putting this presentation together, I kept thinking about this cave, and that a cave in the wilderness can be something that is incredibly safe. You get there, you're out of the elements. You get there, you can build a fire, and you're warm and you're comfortable, and it's a good thing. And I think a lot of us as leaders are leading our teams to those caves, and that's what we have in our mind. We're going to get to that environment. It's going to be safe. It's going to be protective. We're going to be comfortable. But what we don't know, right, is Is there a bear in there? Is there, in our work environment, are we leading them to the cave that burnout bear lives in? Or, like overworking wolf? I don't know. These are really cheesy, but you get the point of like, we're leading them into an environment that we think is going to be safe and protective and comfortable. And in fact, it's incredibly dangerous because we haven't scouted it out. We don't know what's in there. We don't really understand the direction we're taking them. We think it's going to be good, but burnout bear and overworking wolf lives there. So I think we just need to be careful. And that's the real message here. The message and kind of the big so what is that we're going to go through some examples of what good leadership is and where it can maybe lead to dangerous examples and some dangerous caves. We have good intentions. Sometimes, though, it leads us in bad directions. Just as a quick aside, this picture seems maybe a little bit random, and it's obviously a cave. I just love throwing my family into my presentations where I can. So the first three people that you see at the bottom, the blonde and the two with kind of faded out dyed-eye hair, that is my family. Those are my two daughters and my wife. This is while we're in Hawaii. Fun little note. She has a knee brace. My wife has a knee brace on because she's actually broken her leg. This is probably about 2 days after the fact that she broke her leg. She didn't realize it. We thought it was just a bad sprain, so we braced it up and we finished our vacation. And there she is walking through a cave with a broken leg. If that doesn't say how tough my wife is, I don't know what is. But we're not here to talk about my family as much as I love them. We're here to talk about good leaders maybe giving dangerous examples. So I'm going to go through a couple different ideas. We're going to go through a couple different examples. As I'm going through them, I want you doing two different things. I want you to be thinking, is this me? Can I see myself in this role? Can I see myself as this type of a leader, whether it's cheerleader or protector or parent or whatever that might be? Do I see myself? Or maybe do I see my other leaders, right? I'd love, as I'm explaining and describing them, maybe put it into the comments around, oh yeah, I have seen this. I've been challenged with this. I think that would be super helpful. Also remember, again, good leaders, dangerous, not bad examples. We all have these great intentions, but sometimes they might kind of get twisted on us. So let's jump in. What are these different types of leaders? So first type of leader is leader as cheerleader. The cheerleader is fantastic, right? They want to make sure everyone feels special. Everyone feels appreciated. They probably, the leader as cheerleader probably has come from an environment just full of negativity where not a positive word has been said. They feel ignored. They don't get from their boss the appreciation and acceptance that they wanted. And so with their team, they praise a lot. This leader as cheerleader praises freely and fully and consistently. And the problem is that can set an example that all employees are remarkable, right? So think about it from the team member perspective of, I went above and beyond, but it was just 5 extra widgets. It took me an extra hour, but I produced 5 extra widgets for you. And you as the cheerleader say, that is amazing. Like, just holy cow, 5 extra widgets. I didn't realize you could produce 5. And there's this huge, big praise about it. And then a couple months later, and the team member then produces something they work hard on. It is hours upon hours, and the project is like 3 weeks long, and they come in a little bit early on the project and they busted their butt on this project. And the leader comes in and be like, holy cow, this is amazing. And it sounds so similar. So from the employee perspective, I'm kind of getting the same praise and the same to-do hurrah, right, around but my effort is substantially less. And so what are those negative consequences? What are the challenges that are going to come with the leader that has this great intention of creating a positive environment? It's that everything is special. Nothing is special. I think about, I've got a 15 and 16-year-old, and they haven't necessarily been young for a while, but they still love to watch cartoons and Disney movies. I love their kind of childish spirit. But it really reminds me of The Incredibles, right? Where I think one of the line is something like, if everyone is super, no one is, something along those lines. And that's what this feels like. It feels like the cheerleader praises everyone to such an extent that no one's necessarily remarkable. And so it almost discourages people. It pulls people back to say, if I'm going to get the same praise for 5 widgets or 500, I'm just going to do 5. I'm good. So that's the challenge, right? Good leader, dangerous example. What is the consequences and how could it be taken maybe a little bit too far? So leader as peacekeeper. Leader as peacekeeper, again, coming probably from a fairly negative environment where just there's a lot of toxicity. And so leader as peacekeeper says, not in my environment, right? I am going to keep a stress-free environment. All of that backstabbing and people being run over by buses, not here. I'm going to create a really positive environment. I'm going to be able to create something that is calm and pleasant. And people are going to be able to get their work done without fear of being taken down and attacked, right? They're going to come to work, not to come to fight. And that's wonderful. The challenge, the dangerous example, though, is it can set the example that good leaders overcome problems by avoiding them, right? The peacekeeper taken too far avoids conflicts, avoids challenges, avoids problems. They just say, I'm going to keep coaching. Hey, you need to improve your performance. Hey, you need to improve your performance. Hey, you need to improve your performance. And instead of taking it to that next level of like, if you don't, you're gone. That sounds like too much conflict, too much stress. They avoid that. And inevitably what happens is that it actually does create conflict. It just creates conflict for the team members that they now see that agent, that team member that sucks, right? Everyone knows it. Everyone knows that that dude is the worst, and that sure, he's getting performance, but he's not getting performance out. He's being left in his role. There are no real consequences to it. And so the leader as peacekeeper is trying to maintain a peaceful environment and avoiding conflict. Is actually creating conflict by avoiding the problem. So there's a good leader, dangerous example. Leader as parent. Leader as parent is probably, again, coming from an environment where they felt like they were a number and they just felt like a cog in the machine, and they wanted a leader. They want to be the leader that cares for people. Like it's not just, hey, what have you done for me lately? Hey, how are you producing for the company? But how are you personally? Like, how's the family? Where are the kids? And then when there's problems in the family, it really upsets that leader, right? That they get distressed by saying like, oh my God, just stop. Like, your kids need you. Please take a step away. And it's refreshing. It's so comforting to be in that environment. That the challenge, right? That dangerous example is that it can set the example that to make an impact into the organization, you have to feel part of the family. And I know that feels maybe a bit of a jump, but what happens is that like you start blurring the lines between friend and boss, or coworker and someone that's really invested in your life. And it's not mutually exclusive. I hear some of you immediately saying, but you can do both. You can be a caring boss and a friend. And I completely agree. I just think leader as parent blurs the lines a little bit too much to where they aren't sure kind of how to disconnect. And so it gets challenging. And we start to build this expectation of the parent will take care of it. I mean, think about the family dynamic, right? My teenage daughters are the worst, and I mean the worst, about picking up after themselves. I know, shocking, right? That a teenager wouldn't want to clean up after themselves, but like they're just the worst about picking up stuff. I put everything on. We have the system. We have bedrooms upstairs, so I put all of their stuff they lift downstairs on the stairs, so that way, like as they're going up, just pick up your stuff, take your shoes upstairs, and they won't do it. And I think, unfortunately, that's what happens with like leader as parent, is that there becomes this expectation as the kids start to assume that the parent will just take care of it, right? That they're so caring, that they're so nurturing, that they'll just take care of it. And that if I really want to participate, if I really want to make a difference, if I want to join in a leadership role, I'm going to have to be like that leader, which means I'm going to have to own into it and buy into this like family language. It's this, we're all family here. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, if you've seen any of my content, I have some real concerns around family in the workplace. It just makes, not family members, just using that word family language. I think it just blurs the lines a little bit too much. And it just makes it really emotionally challenging. Like, I want to go over there and work somewhere else. I'm leaving my family. That's intense. So I think leader as A leader as parent can be really challenging because it starts to say the kids don't have to do anything. The parents will take care of it. And that's unfortunately what happens with my stairs. I clean up after them. I need to do better about it. But leader as parent will take care of it. And then leader as parent is, if you're not part of the family, you're not really able to contribute. You have to buy into that. You have to like drink the family Kool-Aid. Leader as protector. Leader as protector is great because it protects them, right? Like who doesn't want to feel protected and safe and comfortable at work, right? That's the whole reason of like the imagery of like the cave. We're moving them towards the cave to protect them, to keep them safe. Everyone, again, thinking about the peacekeeper, people don't want to come to work to fight. And that protector keeps people from having to fight. It kind of keeps the toxicity of the other teams, of the other cultures, of the other environments out of the team. And so it's calmer, it's safer. The problem, the dangerous example that like kind of leader as protector can set is that it can set the example that good leadership keeps the team from challenges, right? That good leadership protects. And so that my little babies don't have to do anything hard. That like working with that team over there is the worst. They suck. And I don't want my team having to interact with them because they're horrible. And so I'm just going to make it easy on my little team. I'm going to protect them and I'm going to keep them over here because they suck a whole lot. And I don't want my team to have to interact with them. But then how do they grow? How do they develop? How do they get stronger and better? And I don't want to say like we just throw the protection off. We just take them all out and we say, good luck, right? There's a lot of hardworking teams around here. There's a lot of teams that are going to eat you up, but bye, good luck. We don't just throw them out, but the protector leader taken too far doesn't give them an opportunity to be able to grow. I think also what that starts to do is it starts to create a culture and a kind of a language of an us versus them, right? We're safe. We are comfortable. We're good. We're doing something awesome. They're mean over there. They're hard over there. We don't want to work over there. And that can create some really challenging and almost false intimacy where like we're not really connected. We don't really know each other. We're not really invested in each other. We just all collectively dislike that other group over there. And that's really dangerous about, we kind of create that false intimacy. So they're good leaders that are doing positive things, but can be setting really dangerous examples for their team. I've got 4 more I want to jump into. But I'm curious, have you seen any of these? Has this been your experience? This is being recorded, so I would caution you of throwing out, yeah, my boss is this and it sucks. Like they might see that. So maybe don't call them out directly, but where do you see yourself in these 4? Where have you seen this in your environment? For me personally, I have absolutely been leader as protector. I've had multiple teams that after I've left, I've heard language from them that says, I'm outside of the Dan umbrella, or I'm outside of the Dan shield or protection. How I have built teams and how I've led teams in the past have absolutely been from a place of I'm trying to protect them. I'm trying to keep them safe. I meant well. And again, I was trying to create a kind of a counter culture to some extent. Like, y'all are doing this over here. We want to do something cooler, better, more innovative, more collaborative, more trusting, more safe. And so I created these environments. The challenge is like in one environment, when I finally left, I removed that shield or that umbrella. The next leader up did a pretty decent job of protecting the rest of the team, but they weren't ready to be that shield. They had a really hard time being like, holy cow, Dan, like they're all coming at me. And like, I'm not used to feeling attacked like this. I'm not used to feeling like I have to protect. I'm like, I know it's hard. I needed to have done a better job of not just protecting my team. That's not what I needed to do. I needed to prepare my next future leader as the protector. And in another environment, I don't know why, but I had this image then and now of this almost like little terrarium with these beautiful little flowers and these beautiful little like plants and stuff inside of it. And I was the little bubble over them. And when I left from that organization, I felt like I was exposing them, like all of the toxic and all of the poison and all of the things. And I even remember as I was leaving, I was sharing it with leaders around my team saying, listen, I'm concerned. I think my team's going to get eaten up. Like, I don't think I've prepared them properly. We were a new team. We needed some protection. They needed time to grow and establish themselves. But I left so soon that when I left, the team got demolished. It was a couple months, but people started getting let go and laid off. And honestly, at this point, there's one person left. And I had built out this great team. It was amazing and beautiful. And they all still talk about it like, oh my God. But my leader as protector, well intended, I intended it well, led to an environment that kind of left them unprepared. And then unfortunately, they suffered for that. There is an example of like, I was leading towards a cave that did harm them. I put them into an environment where I meant for protection, and it protected them for a little bit, but Burnout Bear came up and gobbled up their team. That sounds horrible. I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean? Like it was unfortunate. So this is where I was challenged. I see some of the comments of like different pieces at different points in your career. You've seen these. I think that's absolutely true for a lot of us. So we got 4 more I want to go through, and then I'll have some actions. I promise it's not all gloom and doom. We can pivot, and it can be positive. So leader as facilitator. Leader as facilitator is amazing because they want to make sure that everyone's bought in, right? Like they hate this idea that like people's voices don't matter. And so what they do is they facilitate great conversation and dialogue and consensus. They're moving in a particular direction. And it's great because there's alignment and buy-in, and there's this collective agreement that allows everyone to kind of move cohesively forward. And it's wonderful. The challenge, the dangerous example, is that it can set an example that a good leader doesn't tell people what to do. That somehow, as a leader, we shouldn't be just having a strong opinion saying, go this, do that, this. And instead, it leans into, well, what do we think? What should we do? And there's always this group thought, group consensus. It can obviously slow down decision making. It leads to missed opportunities. And kind of at the worst end of it, it starts to create entitlement for some team members, where they start to realize, if I don't like this, I can take this whole thing, right? You have to get my buy-in, because that leader won't move forward without full consensus. They don't want to, this is similar to like the peacekeeper, right? They don't want to rock the apple cart. And so the group consensus is so important to them. One person can say, no, not doing it, not moving forward. I don't care. And so it can breed entitlement for some people, which is just obviously incredibly harmful, incredibly challenging. So good leader, dangerous example. Leader as challenger. Some of these, right, peacekeeper, parent, protector, have kind of been a little bit soft. Leader as challenger is almost the exact opposite, right? They still care, but they want to set big, audacious, hairy goals for people. They love to challenge people. They love putting this stake in the ground way out in the future and say, let's go, team. Let's figure it out. And what they do next then is they want to make sure to empower their team with agency, with autonomy, and in kind of a message of, I trust you, right? I know I've hired smart people, and I know you people are smart. You're going to figure it out how to get there. Go do it, right? The challenge with that is that it can set the example that a good employees just know what to do, right? So it's less about an example of what a good leader is as much as a good employee, but a good employee just, quote, knows what to do. Because this leader, in challenging them and trying to give them agency, trying to give them autonomy and say, I trust you, they then lack communication and clarity around what comes next and how do we get there. They see their role as a leader as someone that just challenges people, casts a vision, and says, let's go. Everyone else, figure it out. And what that can create is this confusion and this frustration, right? The employees are all going in 100 different directions, and there's no alignment in how are we going to accomplish that. And so what starts happening is that people start running into each other, and there's actually conflict of like, this is how I'm going to accomplish this goal. No, this is how I'm going to accomplish it. And there's this butting of heads. And then there's these other people that are frustrated because they've got no clue what to do. They're like, that's really inspiring, boss. Like, I see it. How do I get there? I don't understand what to do. Like, where do I, what? And so they get disheartened, they get frustrated, and they just kind of sit there. And the challenger's like, but I trusted you guys to figure it out. Like I'm doing a good thing. I'm not micromanaging you. I'm not. But they missed out on that positive communication to be able to say this is what you need to do next. So leader as challenger can be really good, but it can set the example that good employees just figure it out and they know what to do. Leader as juggler, unfortunately, probably sounds similar to a lot of us, right? They want to maximize their impact in the organization. They want to be able to have a positive influence on a lot of pieces. And so they just bring it all in. They say yes to almost everything. And it's going to be amazing because their team is going to be heard. They're saying yes to this special project. They're saying yes to this special opportunity. They're saying yes to this research thing. They're saying yes to so much stuff. And in part, it's them, right? They have an opportunity to have a platform and to be able to get in front of people, but they're also thinking about their team. Like, my team's going to benefit. They're going to be exposed to so much more in the organization. We're going to have a seat at the table. We're going to be able to accomplish and have an impact. We are going to move the dial because we are involved and invested in so much. And unfortunately, it can set the example that a good leader doesn't say no. And as soon as I said it, right, y'all knew it was coming. And you're like, well, clearly a good leader does know when to say no. But how often are we setting that poor example? How often are we saying, well, I just want to help my team. And the team sees it as, I could never do that. I can never juggle so many things. And we say, well, just hopefully one more thing, one more ball up in the air. And maybe if I throw it far enough, high enough up, it won't come down for a while and I'll be able to manage the rest of it. We need to realize that as much as we don't want our team to overwork, as much as we don't want our team's plates overflowing, and as much as we say, communicate with me, tell me when you're feeling overwhelmed and overworked, as much as we might be saying that to our team, leader as juggler often sets the example that to be able to get ahead, to be an effective leader, and to be able to just have an impact, you don't say no. You almost always say yes. And that is clearly a dangerous place. Last one is leader as omnipresent. This one I hate just because it doesn't end in an OR or an ER. So as I describe this, if you can think of a better like leader as something please let me know. And even if this is a previous recording and you're watching this on another platform, email me because I would love to update this slide. It was the best I could think of. And actually, I'll be honest, it's not the best I could think of. I went to ChatGPT, and this is the best that collectively, like the ChatGPT and I could think of, was leader as omnipresent. There's something better, and I'm hoping somebody can help me figure out leader as something would be better. But anyways, leader is omnipresent. You guys probably already immediately know what this looks like. The positive intent, the good leader piece is, I want my team to feel supported. I want them to know that I'm available and accessible at all times. They take that open door policy and they say, seriously, you're my number one priority. My job as leader is to support you. I want to be available and support you. And they view that as their primary goal and primary responsibility. Unfortunately, where that can lead to, and the example that it can set, is that a good leader is always on and always connected. Right? They're saying, well, I only work 9 to 5, but I've got night shift people. I have to make sure to connect with them. I've got international people. And so working till midnight, like that's how I support them. And I'm not expecting them to do it. Right? Well, I'll say that. We're not log off. You're on vacation. Would you stop? Like, don't log in. You're on vacation. And then leader as omnipresent doesn't listen to that message. They're on. They're connected constantly, right? They're omnipresenter. I mean, I see it, Michelle. Meh. Oh, we'll workshop that a little more. I appreciate the thought. But the omnipresent leader says, listen, don't follow my example. Just disconnect. And for some reason, our teams don't, right? The message they're clearly seeing and receiving is that I want your job. I got to do that. And I have to always be on. It's dangerous. Good intention, good leader, dangerous example. All right. One last little piece here. So some of you might be looking at this and might be saying, sucks to you guys, right? Like, I am an individual contributor. I am a QA specialist. I'm a WFM analyst. I'm not a leader. And in fact, I'm going to be sending this presentation to my leader so that they know how hard they have it and how they need to improve. the reality is, even if you're an individual contributor and you're not a leader, you're probably still leading. So real quick, some examples of this might look like, again, good intentions. And that's really what we're talking about here. Good intentions with possibly negative or dangerous outcomes. You're a performance coach. You're giving feedback sessions. And from your perspective, you're trying to improve their performance. You want them to get better. You want your salespeople at a higher conversion rate so that their checks are bigger and they make more money. That's fantastic. And yet your feedback sessions come pretty regularly, pretty frequently. And it almost feels nitpicking because when was the last time you said something positive, right? You were trying to say like, okay, now do this differently. Now do this differently. But from an agent's perspective, it can feel incredibly overwhelming and exhausting that you didn't have anything positive to say and that we have another feedback session so soon. So even though you're an individual contributor, you might still be having a negative impact, and you might be leading as a poor example, right? QA specialist with like conversion recaps or conversation recaps. You as a team have decided that conversation recaps are important, that you want to make sure that your agents and your customers are on the same page, that there's kind of this synopsis of like what happened in this call. And where that can lead to is that the agents are recapping every single little detail and that the customer is leaving frustrated, right? That it was such a good conversation up to the point to where the agent then went through a 3-minute recap of every single little detail. And the customer is actually like, never mind. Like, do we need to recap the recap? That was ridiculous. And so we wanted to have a positive impact, but there's these negative results that can happen. WFM analysts increasing AHT goals, right? Like we want to enable our agents to be able to connect personally with our customers, to be able to share anecdotes, to be able to say like, hey, this is what's happening. It's great to be able to build loyalty through these personal conversations. And then the HT just blows up. It's way too high. Agents are oversharing. Customers are saying, can you just stick to the point? Like, I just want my password reset. Can we wrap up? And the queues are backing up, right? Your AHT is ballooning. And so now people are waiting longer and longer and the customer experience is suffering. Good intention, possibly taken too far. WFM analysts going after schedule adherence goals. You've heard of the power of one, that one person out of adherence can have a substantial impact to the customer and to the agents. And it's true, right? You want an environment that is beneficial to the employees, beneficial to the customers. And so you start going after schedule adherence to make sure that the agents know everyone's there to support them. The customers get a great service right away. And it feels like micromanagement. That we are so particular about where people need to be, when they need to be there, how they need to be there, that it feels like Big Brother, that the agents feel micromanaged, that their whole life down to every little second is just scheduled. This is what you do, then this is what you do, and then this is what you do. And if you don't do it, you're in trouble. And clearly something that was meant to support the agents so that they know that their coworkers have their back, all of a sudden is leaving them demoralized and frustrated. And then lastly, like the CX specialist, customer centricity. We want to make sure that our customers know we'll do what we need to. Like we'll make an exception. We'll go above and beyond just to make sure that you're a loyal and happy customer. And by making those exceptions and providing like special accommodations, the agents are confused. Wait, why is that a yes? I told them no. I see that it's a yes now on that booking. Why is it? And then you start breaking down communication. You start breaking down trust. They say that's what you do, but you don't have to, right? Because over here, they're constantly making these exceptions. I'm sure they're going to make an exception here. And so all of a sudden now you're lacking trust in the environment. Policies and procedures are breaking down everywhere. And what you really wanted was just to make the customers feel special is now leading to this kind of wild, wild west of customer experience. And so all of this simply to say, like, it's hard, right? That there's a lot that's going on here. There's a lot we want to try to do. And none of us want to set a dangerous example. All of us have the intention of going out there and leading in a positive direction. We think that cave we're taking our teams to is safe and comfortable. No one tries to set a dangerous example, and yet sometimes we do. So how do we know we're doing that, right? We're biased. We think We're the exception. Right, Dan, I understand. I might have cheerleading tendencies, but I know not to praise everybody. I might have protector tendencies, but I let my team struggle and suffer sometimes. Like I don't, I got a good balance. I'd love for you to kind of go through the exercise of, if you did have something you're going to go over on, if there was something that you might take too far, if it will be a protector or a parent or a cheerleader or omnipresenter, if whatever that is, what would it be? Maybe you're perfect, but let's go back to the very beginning. Leadership is hard. There's a lot of balance you have to strike. Like, that list was what, 8 deep, and there's probably a bunch more we could add onto it. Are you telling me that you think you are hitting every single one of those balances perfectly? That you're not overcorrecting, or you're maybe going in a dangerous direction on any of them? So what do? I think you gotta stop and ask that question. What would it look like if I did go too far? If I did have a tendency and kind of had a kind of a leaning to maybe go to an extreme and have some negative consequences, where would that be? Well, like I said before, right? I know protector is going to be that tendency. I'm going to want to protect my team and create this great culture. I love having a really positive and strong culture on my team, and I'm going to want to protect that. And I know for me, it might go too far to where I'm now cutting my team off from being able to kind of collaborate well. I might create an us versus them language. And so I need to own that. So I'd ask you to do the same. How do you know if you're maybe going too far? It starts with that self-reflection. Start talking to yourself, start thinking through what might that look like. It could also look like shadowing and observing your team. What's really interesting, if you haven't done it recently, I'd strongly suggest shadowing your team. What's interesting is that when we shadow our team, we start to see what they think we think is important, right? They slow down, they start focusing on all of these little details, and they start talking in a different way. They start responding to emails in a different way. They start focusing, and it's all of a sudden the boss is watching. I got to make sure that I do these things, whatever those are. And that could be really indicative of maybe where you've gone too far. Maybe you're like, why are they focusing so much on X? I don't get it. I've never, right? Maybe that's because I set that example, and maybe they feel like they have to do X now because I've gone too far. So shadowing and observing your team will help start pointing out maybe where the team is kind of reflecting back to you what you have highlighted as something super important, even if you didn't mean to. Compare practices with other leaders in your organization. Again, you're going to be biased. You're going to be like, that's cool that they're doing that over there, but my way's better. Or like, that works for them because they've got those people on their team and that works really well for them. But my team wouldn't do that, wouldn't think that, and really that wouldn't work well. And in fact, maybe I need to go over there and help. Like, we're going to be biased thinking that we're hitting everything on like all cylinders, but still try to kind of come at it humbly. How are the other leaders different than you? How are they leading? And where might they be able to prove and point out that you've gone too far? Is there an opportunity where you're like, they do a really good job of praising their team, but not all the time. Like, I like how they praise sometimes and then they challenge other times, but when they challenge, they communicate what that means and where it goes. What does that look like? And you get that opportunity to kind of see and compare and contrast by looking at the other leaders. How can you identify that you maybe have gone too far and you're setting a dangerous example to your team? Ask the team, right? Maybe it's a group session and then you say, guys, I think I'm perfect. I know you think I'm perfect. But if I did have a flaw, hypothetically, if I did have a challenge where I'm maybe going too far, what would it be? What am I intending as a positive that maybe somebody is seen as a negative? And I know clearly I'm kind of exaggerating some of this, like, oh, I'm perfect, but you're going to have to kind of come at it kind of funny and lighthearted, because if you come in and being like, hey, I need to know what are my mistakes and what am I doing wrong? Like that is going to shut down so much of the conversation. Everyone's going to be like, you're perfect, boss. I don't see anything wrong, right? So group session, maybe you have some extroverts that are super quick to be able to share their opinions, but you're probably going to have some introverts that are going to want some time to chew on it. That's where that one-on-one feedback is going to come in. Follow up with them and kind of have those one-on-one conversations to be able to say, like, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not leading us into dangerous places, that I'm not setting bad examples. Where might that look like? Where might I be setting a bad example? What might I be doing too much of with good intention, but maybe leading as a bad example? Some questions that you can maybe ask in those one-on-ones is something like, if you would lead this team, how would you do it differently? And that might be more about their skills and their personalities, but I think it could be really interesting for them to point out, to say, oh, I would have less meetings. I don't think I would probably be as involved as in so many projects. And you'd be like, oh, maybe I am leader as juggler. And maybe I need to pull back and say no a little bit more. Maybe I'm setting that. So how would you lead this team differently? And then another question I think might be interesting is, what skills would you need to develop to do my job? So as a team member, they'd be like, well, I need to have experience with, I need to get comfortable. I think it could be really interesting. Think about this as an answer. Someone says, oh, I don't think I could be a leader right now. Like I just got too much going on. Like my kids have games, and we've got all these other criteria, and we've got all these other things. I couldn't be a leader because my schedule just doesn't allow it. I've got these other pieces. And that might be really important for you to hear. Your example as leader is omnipresent. That their expectation of leadership is that they're constantly connected, that they don't have work-life balance. And so there's a way for you to get at, what's the example I'm setting that I might need to adjust? So what skills would you need to develop to do my job? Or how would you lead this team differently? I think those could be really interesting. And then lastly, do a 360 review. 360 review means like you're interacting and you're asking your peers to review you, you're asking your boss and your boss's peers to review you, and then also you're asking your team to review you. The key here is it needs to be anonymous. You need to be working with probably like an HR business partner to collect the feedback, and include people that don't like you. I know that probably sounds kind of funny and but for real, like don't handpick all of the people that are going to think you're doing an amazing job. Pick the people that you're pretty sure support you, love you, and appreciate what you're doing. But pick the people also that are challenging to you, that like when they're in those meetings with you, you're like, okay, Dan's on that call. All right, I'm ready now. I took that. Include them on that review as well. Get that differing perspective. It's only going to be when you have those types of voices that you're going to be able to possibly see where you might be overcorrecting. So we've got these examples: leader as protector, leader as parent or omnipresent, and we know that they're good intentions that might lead to bad examples. How do we identify what we are and where are we overcorrecting? Self-reflection, shadowing, comparing practices. But once we've identified it, right, we own where we're at. What do we do then? So what I think we need to focus on is being open to change. You're going to come into this and it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to feel wrong, right? Your leadership style is the way that it is because it feels right, right? You are protecting your team. And I keep coming back to that because it's closer to me. I'll say it this way: I'm protecting my team because that culture is important to me, because they're different and I want our team to be different. And I don't want them looking and acting and feeling like these other people. And so I'm going to do. And so when you start changing that, when you start pulling back that veil, that protection, that shield, it's going to feel like you're exposing them to exactly what you don't want them to be exposed to. It's going to feel like, oh no, they're going to start acting like these other people. But you have to still try. You have to still be open to the fact that you might be wrong, that you don't need that much protection. You don't need that much cheerleading. You don't need that much parenting, whatever that is. And that you need to be open to the fact that you're going too far. You're setting a dangerous, if not bad example. You need to be open to change. You need to educate yourself. So What does proper protection look like? What does proper juggling, multitasking, how to appropriately say yes to some things and no to other things? How do you do it the right way? Your bias, you don't know. You're clearly going too far, right? That's the reason why we're at this step, is because we've identified that we go too far. So start educating yourself. Start reading up articles and webinars and other pieces. I'll put in a shameless plug here. Consume some call design content. We've got blogs weekly. We've got webinars. I know this feels a little salesy, but like we are putting out content around how to say no. Like one of the pieces I've put out is, how to be able to say no in your career. We've put out content around how to manage up and what does that look like. So we're a good source. Of course, there's hundreds of other articles and different pieces out there that are other good sources. But begin to educate yourself so that you can identify how you might need to change. Finding a mentor would be a fantastic way. I know mentors can be inside or outside your organization. I would suggest that this mentor be inside your organization. So specifically someone that's able to see you working in your way that you're leading your team. So that's probably going to need to be someone internally. A mentor is just someone that's maybe got a little bit more experience, someone that kind of understands an environment a little bit better, and just someone that's able to say, hey, Dan, you asked me to keep an eye on you being overly protective. I think you missed an opportunity. I think that was an example of where you could have let your team interact with that other team a little bit more. And instead you cut that conversation off. You inserted yourself as a single point of contact. You could have opened that up a little bit more. And so that mentor is able to speak to that because they kind of see you in the wild, in the real environment. I'd suggest communicate with your team today. Where we're at is if you've gone through this and you own it, you're like, I get it. It's hard to accept, but I overprotect. That's a challenge. I need to correct it. You'll tell your team today that you realize that you probably go too far. You need to apologize. And I think that's good leadership, is to apologize for leading into dangerous spaces. So guys, I think I've been on too much. I think I have been connected constantly. And I did it to support you. I did it to make myself available. And I think some of you feel really supported and that I'm accessible. I want to own, though, the fact that I've set the example that maybe you guys have to do that too. And I don't want that as an example. I don't want you feeling like you have to be always connected. So first off, I apologize. And also, this is how I want to operate, and start communicating to them, what does the new Dan or the new leader look like? What does appropriate on and connectedness look like? So communicate with the team, apologize, and then make sure to give yourself some grace, right? So what's going to happen here is you're going to get it wrong. If you're a challenger, right, you're going to say, I need to do a better job of communicating those steps. Instead of just putting out a flag 300 yards in front of everyone and saying, go, I'm going to need to spell out the steps. And there's a really good chance you spell out step 1 and the team is still exhausted and frustrated. You're like, dude, you improved, but we need like 5. Where are you at? Right? So you didn't do enough. And there's a good chance also that you go too far. And now you're spelling out 100 steps and it feels like micromanagement, right? Your team is painting by numbers and they don't have the autonomy anymore. And the reality is that you're going to get this wrong. You're going to want to change, and you're going to try to do something different, and you're going to mess up, which is why I think that you probably need to connect that back to communicate with your team and let them know, I'm going to get it wrong. Just make sure that you don't give yourself too much grace, right? Like where you're like, well, I'm going to get it wrong, so why even try? I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm just going to get it wrong a lot. Like, do your best effort, right? Be humble and try to go after change. You don't have to stay in the place that you are. If you own it, you realize that you're leading in a very dangerous way, you can get better. And here's some ways that I think you can do that: through education, by finding a mentor, by communicating, and just having people holding you accountable to how you think you need to kind of work differently. So we have covered a lot. I know it's been it's 55 minutes. What have we talked about? Dangerous isn't the same thing as bad, right? Yes, you're leading them towards a cave. That cave probably is dangerous. Doesn't mean it's a bad cave. it could be a cave of proper protection, safety, comfort, and warmth, but also Burnout Bear could be there. And I think I might copyright Burnout Bear, and I might start getting little plushies. And if you guys want one, let me know. But like the bear might be there, and it's dangerous. And that's not the same thing as bad. So don't beat ourselves up. We haven't necessarily done harm, but we just need to own the fact that maybe we're setting a bad precedence. Even with good intentions, we might be setting that dangerous example. Even as leaders, as non-leaders, we're still leading, right? Even though we don't have people directly reporting into us, even if as individual contributors, we still need to own the fact that we are setting an example, right? Think about this. I didn't even say this, just thought of it now, but as an individual contributor that maybe is a high performer, right? You're getting that praise. And so you're setting an example to others of what high performance looks like. So if your example is always on, always connected, always saying yes, you're getting praised for that. You're also setting the example to the rest of the team that that's what it takes to be a high performer. Now, there's a conversation you probably need to have with your boss about, hey, dude, why are you praising me for being always on and always connected and always saying yes? Like, that's unhealthy. But you have to own the fact that your example is impacting the team as well. We all need to do some self-assessment to realize that the example we're setting. I think we need to pause, stop, and realize, where are we going? Again, a lot of us have been put into leadership positions or been given new roles in our organizations because we're really good at, selling, and then we're coaching and really good at coaching, and now we're casting vision. We're thrown into a lot of environments that we're not ready for. Let's just own the fact that we're not ready for them and start to do some self-assessment on like, what is the impact that I'm having? And then once we have owned that impact, we need to act and ask for grace and be open to change. There's a lot that's going on and a lot that we're going to get wrong. We just need to make sure that we're communicating well with others about what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to do, and honestly, that we're apologetic for the mistakes that we've made along the way. So that's everything we've covered. If you're not already following us, I don't know if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube when you're watching this, make sure that you are following us on the given platform. If you are on a desktop, you can take your phone out, scan those QR codes. The top one obviously takes you to calldesignna.com. That is our primary website. We post blogs there weekly. We have a bunch of different solution content there. Would love for you to be able to come check out some of that content. And then, of course, my LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is my platform. I post Monday through Friday. It is what I enjoy doing. And so if you enjoyed this, you'd probably get more of that content both on calldesignna.com and also on mine. And then another shameless plug, I'll go ahead and do it. If you did enjoy this, if you found this helpful, let us know. We offer leadership coaching, leadership consulting. I would love to have one-on-one conversations with you. Maybe it's with a larger team about kind of owning the leadership styles that you guys are putting out there. What are the dangerous examples you might be setting? And maybe you've done the self-reflections, but you're still not quite sure if you've nailed it and if you're hitting it correctly. We would be happy to be able to help you with that. We'd be happy to be able to kind of walk you through how things can be done differently. Whether that's leadership coaching or consulting, it is absolutely something that we can help with. So follow us on LinkedIn, check out our website, follow me on LinkedIn. You gave me an hour, maybe not, maybe it's 58 minutes, maybe you gave me 56 and you just dropped off. But if you're still here, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time and attention. I appreciate the fact that you're taking leadership seriously, that you're wanting to improve. And if I can help with that, please let me know. Thanks so much. And it has been a blast. Hopefully I hear from you soon. Thanks.